We interrupt your regularly scheduled Watch It Bro podcasting for a Watch It Bro special feature. As always, I am Tristan.
I'm Marshall.
And today we have a very special guest with us who is a longtime friend of ours and the GM over at the Big Campaign podcast, Jeph.
Hey, everybody.
If you'd like to take a minute to tell us about your podcast real quick, that would be phenomenal.
I make a podcast with four of my long-term friends, playing some first edition Pathfinder, telling a silly story, kind of set in a Blade Runner-esque setting, and homebrew.
I've listened to it. I like it. You should listen to it too.
I play in it. I have a blast. You should listen.
There's three people who think you should listen. And so today we are doing something a little bit different, and we are going to be, well, I'll let Marshall take it from here, and he will let us know what we're getting into today, just to mix it up a little bit.
All right. So today we are talking about the movie Manos, The Hands of Fate. And Manos means hands. So it's actually Hands of Fate.
No kidding.
No kidding. This is I want to say, independent movie made in 1966. It is 70 minutes long. It is written, directed, produced, and starring Hal Warren. And some of the other stars in it are Tom Neiman, John Reynolds, Diane Mahrie, and then Hal Warren himself. It is I'm going to say, quote unquote, horror thriller.
It is horrible.
That is the legal definition of what this movie could be called.
A horrible thriller.
A horror thriller.
But to say it is good would be stretching the definition of good. However, this movie has captured mine and Jeff's heart, so we made Tristan watch it.
And I made my wife watch it. Apologies were made.
Let's see. Do you want to go right into it, or you want a little bit more about the movie in the background?
Yeah, whatever you got. If you want to jump right into it, go ahead, and you can do it as they come up, or if you want to give a little more fun facts before we jump into the movie, go right ahead.
A fun Manos fact is Hal P. Warren, the creator of the movie, was actually dared to make this movie by another fellow director that they met out on a set.
And like Jeff's fun fact, I've got several of them we'll be sprinkling in throughout this movie. But I think the first time Jeff and I ever watched it, it was a part of the Mystery Science Theater 3000 collection, where if you don't know what that is, it's a guy and a couple robots, puppets, that are mocking the movie as it plays.
And they also have that version available on Amazon or Prime Video that you can watch instead of the actual version of Manos.
Not sponsored by Amazon.
Another fun Manos fact, the DVD I bought with the movie had on one side the MST3K, on the other the movie without commentary. Either way, the back of the case misspelled Torgo's name as Togar, which, if you've seen the movie, Torgo's kind of a main character.
And Torgo is a main character and has developed a following as the best character out of the movie.
He's certainly my favorite.
Unfortunately, John Reynolds, the one who played Torgo, did kill himself at the age of 25 shortly before the movie actually premiered, but right after it was done. But that's not a fun Manos fact.
Yeah, I was actually going to say that when we were watching it, they do have a little blurps about the actors and whatnot, and I did notice that the guy who played Torgo did pass away before the movie was released. It didn't say how, but
yeah.
Hopefully it had nothing to do with being in this movie.
There are rumors, but how do you feel about fields that can be seen from car windows?
Yes. This movie has many of them. And before we get into this, let me preface this movie was filmed on a handheld camcorder, which only filmed in 32-second increments with no sound. So after the filming, they had to ADR all the voices, and only 3 of the actors were a part of this, as well as a professional voice actress. So yeah, there's only 4 people doing the voices of like the 20 some odd people in the movie. And John Reynolds wasn't one of them to do Torgo. So
Torgo's not even really Torgo?
I mean, the acting part is, but the voice isn't his. I wasn't able to find anything on who voiced who, actually, but Jeph, you get on that while I start off the movie. As Jeph mentioned, Texas landscapes. We see a rest stop where a car pulls up, and there we meet our main family: Michael, Margaret, Debbie, and their dog Peppy. You look surprised.
The dog had a name.
They mentioned it a few times.
I missed it. Go ahead.
They're in a convertible. Debbie, the child, is complaining about being tired and cold. And Margaret's like, "Come on, your vacation will start soon. We're almost there. And hop on front because apparently Dad's not gonna put the top up. You can sit between us and keep warm." So they continue on, and we get more Texas scenery. There's a lot of Texas scenery in this opening shot. A lot of cars driving. Were you able to find anything, Jeff?
On the Torgo dubbing, no, not at all.
Okay. At this point, it cuts to a cop car, and we see the title Manos, The Hands of Fate. A cop car pulls over our family. Cop gets out, establishing the cop character, and he says, "Hey, you got a tail light out." The guy's like, "Hey, I'm sorry. Can you give me a break this time? We're on vacation. We're trying to get out of here." And the cop's like, "All right, I'll give you a warning," and sends them on their way. It is. It's hard to judge the performances as it's a spliced together mishmash of 30-second clips over with a dubbed voiceover, but everybody
And,
seems pretty wooden.
and it's not a very good dubbing. Like I shut it off and turned it back on 3 times before you responded to me saying, "No, no, no, it's all ADR. It just doesn't match up." Because I thought there was something wrong with my internet connection and TV.
Fun Manos fact, a lot of the actors also didn't know it was going to be dubbed. So when they showed up to the premiere, they were very surprised not to hear themselves.
Yes,
Th-
that was.
There was a premiere to this.
Oh,
There,
yes.
there was. The limo
There was
went
a
around the block twice.
Yes, there was a premiere. It was filmed near El Paso, and the premiere was there. The mayor showed up, and Hal, the guy that plays Michael, and the director, um,
And the
he rented a
producer.
limo. What was that?
And the producer.
And the
And the
producer.
writer.
He rented a limo and got people in 4 at a time, and it circled the block a couple times, so it looked like there was more limos, so people getting out of the limo, walking up to the premiere, it'd run around the block, everybody jump in, go around the block again, trying to play up the big importance of the movie that no one had seen yet.
That is genius.
As the cop lets them go, they turn down a road that says Valley Lodge. It's a sign there, and we cut to a kissing couple in the car. Um, and the kissing couple like, I wonder where they're going. There's nothing up there. And then they keep kissing and making out and drinking. If you don't have any fun facts about this, Jeff, I'll put in the fun fact here.
Fun fact, the girl in this, or the woman in the scene that is making out with Bernie Rosenblum, she actually was supposed to be one of the master's wives. Unfortunately, she had broken or dislocated her ankle, and under contract, she still had to be in the movie. So they made up a scene where she makes out with this guy and gets yelled at by the cops.
Two things. It's insane there was contracts for this movie.
I mean, Hal put in $19,000 of his own money, which nowadays is roughly $178,000.
But the guy in there, Barry Rosenblum, he is the stunt coordinator for the movie. He's also one of the filmers for the movie, and we have more fun facts about him later on. Oh no! Eddie, what?
You said, "Oh no," and started laughing. So
I
let's get
did.
to it.
We're 5 minutes into the movie and like 30 minutes recording.
Yeah,
That's okay. It'll go quick.
it better.
Okay, so the kissing couple's there. Cops drives up, reestablishes the cops in the area again. He's like, "Hey, move it along," and they're like, "Hey, stop bothering us!" But the cop shoos them away, and they take off. We cut back to the family driving around, like, "Hey, we're lost." Like, well, maybe we'll go back and talk to that car and see if they can point us in the right direction. So they turn around and head back, and then the road's blocked, and they start making circles. They're lost, and then all of a sudden they see this lodge, quote unquote lodge, um, and Mike is like, "Where'd that come from? That wasn't there before." And Margaret is all like, "I don't care. It's getting dark. Let's just go in."
And it looks like it's about 2 p.m.
Yes.
So like dark is nowhere It doesn't seem like dark is anywhere on the horizon,
Dark happens fast.
apparently.
But they get out of the car, and this is when we first meet the illustrious Torgo. He is standing outside. As they approach, he says, "I am Torgo. I watch over the place while the master's away." And they are like, "Hey, we're lost. Can you tell us how to get out of here, or can we stay here?" And Torgo keeps not banters back, but he says, "The master went like that. You can't stay here." And Debbie's complaining about being cold and hungry. Margaret doesn't want to drive anymore. So Mike is just very forceful, like, "Come on, Torgo, let's do this." And through a lot of awkward looks and silences, Torgo decides it would be all right if they stayed and lets them come in and says he'll go get the bags. And we get the best piece of music in this movie is when Torgo walks. If you have watched this movie in preparation for this podcast, you know the piece of music, or you should. If you
Um,
don't, it's fabulous.
Fun thing, because our illustrious director, Hal, never put a copyright at the front of the film since it was before 1986. It actually means it's part of the public domain. So you're welcome to, Tristan, if you'd like, splice in Torgo's theme song, as it is a publicly held film.
Oh, that's fantastic. Um, and this is when you get a full look at Torgo, and he walks very bizarrely.
Now, does he have pillows in his pants?
Jeff,
Well, I believe that they're actually rolled up towels, but still, yes. Funny enough, Torgo originally, with our wonderful director's vision, was meant to be a satyr. You know, half goat, half man.
like Mr. Tumnus.
Yes, like a
Okay.
Mr. Tumnus. Well, they didn't quite have the ability to pull off the effects that they wanted, so instead they tried to make him a hunchback. The director felt that was too cliche to have the master have a hunchback servant, so they removed the hunchback aspect of it, but left the towels in his legs for satyr reasons. Why, we'll never know, but that is the reason why Torgo walks so strangely and looks so weird. Is he's 3 costumes deep and half costume back.
Yes, he is part satyr, which it not an awful effect for the time. His legs definitely look odd and satyrish.
Yeah.
Someone had to say something.
Like, giving the movie too much credit.
No,
After
if you're as I have pulled up right now the opening scenes where they run into Torgo, him standing on the stairs with his giant bulging pants from towels shoved in him does give an appropriate satyr-like appearance at that angle. Every other scene, it's just a very awkward man who's clearly stealing towels.
but Torgo's got this magnificent hat and a hand staff, which is a staff with a hand on top of it. You look perplexed. uh, so after a long silence and awkward looks between the family and Torgo, he goes to get their luggage. He lets them in. The kid and the dog, Peppy, jump on the couch to start playing while they look around this lodge, which we're only ever going to see 2 rooms of. This front room and a bedroom. But this front room has a fireplace with a big statue of a head on it and a lot of hand statues on it. It's kind of creepy. And the wife gets up and Margaret's like, "I don't like this place. It's creepy. Look at that picture." And they see a big portrait of who they assume to be the master, and Torgo confirms, and a Doberman dog looking very unsettling. And Margaret's like, that picture's creepy. That dog looks menacing and sinister. I don't like it here. Torgo comes back from putting the bags in the bedroom, and they start asking about the picture. And Torgo says the master has left this world. They talk back and forth about the master a little bit, and we learn that the master has left this world but hasn't died. Then they're confused. But Debbie's fallen asleep on the couch. Torgo says, "Time to get you to your rooms because it's now dark out." Because it turned to dark in what, the 5 minutes they were in the house.
Correct. Yeah, this is partially because they couldn't afford and they weren't able to secure lights for any of the scenes. So that's why they are in full daylight when they call out, "Oh, it's getting dark soon," and they go inside. Once inside, it's always dark out. And multiple scenes later, for instance, there's some cops that will be, well, when we get there, um, they just stand by their car because they actually can't afford to have them walk out into the darkness. So they give the illusion of searching by just staring out their car window.
Yeah. A lot of this movie, actually, at this point, everything after this point is shot at night due to everybody else's day jobs.
Fun Manos fact: a lot of people thought that Hal Warren was a fertilizer salesman. This is untrue. At the time of his filming of Manos in the Hands of Fate, he was actually a manager over at American General Insurance.
That one is a fun fact.
That was fun.
So Torgo's getting ready to get them to their room, and we hear a howling outside. And for whatever reason, Margaret tells Michael to go chase it away or whatever is out there. So he runs outside, followed by Pepe, who runs out the door too. But he runs to his car, um, grabs the gun out of the glove box, and heads off into the dark desert to scare off whatever's making the howling noise. We hear fighting noises, I guess. But Mike comes across Pepe's dead body. Pepe the dog has died.
Why? What was the point of the dog? Did they like want to have a dog at first, and then like after filming for up to this point, they're like, I hate this dog. Can we just kill it off and be done?
My theory, because the master also has a dog, is that the two dogs didn't get along on set.
Ah, that makes sense.
Possibly. My theory is they started with the like American family. You got the kid, the dog, the mother and father, and then you needed something to scare them a bit more, other than the creepy Torgo and house.
Oh yeah, in universe, it totally makes sense for the dog to get removed.
Yeah, but that's a good point too. I'm guessing the two dogs didn't get along.
That's what Murphy's Law, right? The easiest
Yeah.
explanation is probably the right one.
Ooh, I think you just invoked the other law, the fastest way to get the right answers to say the wrong one on the internet. Because what you described was Occam's razor, not Murphy's
Occam's
law.
razor, yes. Murphy's Law is anything that could possibly
Yes.
go wrong will go wrong. I'm thinking
Yeah.
Occam's razor. You're right.
You found the simplest way to make it go wrong, and you did it.
I win.
Yep, you Murphy's razored that.
That's going to be a new thing. Murphy's razor.
So Mike runs back to the house. Margaret's outside, and he says, Pepe's dead. And she starts crying. They hug for a second. And this is like the only time, really, that the voice acting, that's quote unquote acting, the voice and the acting in the film, the physical, kind of match up. Not for the scene itself, but just together. He sounds and looks very over this whole thing. He's like, there, just get inside. It just seems he's not consulting that the facials, but everything is just kind of like, yeah, very wooden, very, I'm over this. Why did I do this project? How many more days do I have to shoot? But he sends her inside, heads back into the dark, picks up Peppy, and carries Peppy awkwardly into the darkness. He comes back. Debbie wakes up from her nap, and they tell her that Peppy left while she was asleep, and she starts crying. Margaret has decided she wants to leave. Mike's like, "Where's Torgo? Torgo, get the bags. We're leaving." Like he's all of a sudden their servant.
Yeah.
And he runs out to the car to get it started and ready to go. But it won't start. So Michael's looking under the hood.
This is where we get to, I believe, one of the more awkward scenes of the movie. Um,
You are right.
where Torgo both attempts to set Margaret up with the master and at the same time goes for, I would like to say, the world's slowest hair touching experience. It's a very odd scene that only becomes funnier when you try to imagine anything serious going on with this movie. It's very
Yes.
blurry. There's a lot of half groping of just kind of a shoulder and hair.
Yeah. So Margaret's packing, and Torgo's there just kind of watching her. And like he said, it's awkward, it's weird, it's creepy. He slowly reaches for her, and she just stands there for like 15 seconds as he slowly raises his hand up to her, touches her hair briefly. She doesn't really react until he takes his hand away, and then she says, "Don't ever try that again," and slaps him. Then she starts talking about how to be one of the master's wives, Torgo likes her. She will be safe because the master likes her, and she kind of starts freaking out and starts calling for Mike.
Mike, in I guess awkwardly appropriate style of the time, ignores the pleas of help from his wife while looking at the engine of the car that won't start. But Mike doesn't know how to fix a car.
Right.
Uh,
He's just looking at it. He's like, do I
yeah.
see anything that I could do? He's still got the gun in his hand too. He's looking at it.
Well, he's not gonna set that down.
No.
Torgo's
Nope.
around.
He's got a gun in one hand and a flashlight in the other. Neither of which are going to fix the car.
Yeah. We cut back to the wife, Margaret and Torgo's like, "Hey, I didn't mean you any harm." She's like, "Fine, I won't tell my husband." Uh, and Mike comes back into the house. Debbie's on the car, and he's fuming. He's like, "The car won't start. What's going on? Can we make a phone call?" And Torgo's like, "Hey, there's no phone." So they decide you have to stay. And Torgo takes the bags back inside. And while Torgo's taking the bags back to the bedroom, Mike and Margaret are looking at the picture of the master on the wall. And Debbie gets up from the couch and walks through another door, and they turn around and they're like, "Where's Debbie?" And they start looking for their daughter. Mike's gonna check outside while Margaret pokes her head awkwardly into the other door. I don't know if you noticed that she opens it just a crack and pokes her head in and closes it. I'm guessing because there was something in that room they didn't want on film.
The location that they filmed this at is very clearly, I think, a one bedroom studio. Mike, Margaret, and Debbie never go to rooms. Torgo brings in their bags through the living room and sets them down in a room where Torgo comes out of. But at no point do these people actually have a room. It's a very odd setup when you think of like how the house is laid out, which is why Margaret just opens random doors.
Yeah,
And
it's this lodge was filmed in a one bedroom
yeah,
hole, basically. They're looking outside. Margaret's crying, and Debbie comes around the corner from the lodge with a Doberman from the picture on a leash. She's like, "Look, I got a new dog." And they're like, "Get over here and let the dog go."
Yeah.
She runs over to her parents, lets go of the dog. It runs away, and they're like, "That was the dog from the painting, wasn't it?" The family goes back inside. The dog takes off, and we see a altar with the master sleeping on it. His wives on pillars, kind of behind it, and there's like a fire burning in the front of the foreground.
oh, so Debbie is the one that found that location, and after they bring her inside, that's where she's like, "I can show you," and takes
Yeah,
them there. So this is our halfway through the movie reveal of the sleeping bad guy.
yeah, yeah. She's gonna take them there.
I believe Marshall described it earlier, but just in case, the master kind of looks like short-haired Freddie Mercury or Frank Zappa, wearing a giant robe that has two giant red hands on it. It's a black robe with two giant red hands because he is Manos, the master of the hands of fate.
Yeah, I mean, we know him as he looks like one of our friends, so
What friend?
looks like our buddy Joe.
Yeah.
Fun fact, though, the guy that played the master, Tom Neiman, made the robe and also painted the portrait of him and the Doberman. Also, fun fact, the Doberman and Jackie, the girl that plays Debbie, are the only two people that got paid for this movie. She got a new bike, and he got a large bag of dog food.
And Jackie, actor who plays Debbie, is actually Jackie Neiman. So she is the daughter of the master.
Yes. So yeah, they come in the house. Debbie's like, "I can show you where it is," and they're like, "Torgo's got some explaining to do," and so they leave the house. We see the altar, and then Torgo comes to the altar, and he's just ranting and raving in his Torgo way. He's like, "I don't like any of you. This wife is going to be mine. I am done with all of you." He gets creepy with some of the wives, just being touchy.
He does his slow hand maneuver. It's his one go-to trick.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, just kinda like, "Hey," as he reaches his hand out slowly and pets the hair or the dress, or Torgo's got some issues.
Yeah.
All
He
of which
does.
is all of which would be somewhat fine if he would have stuck as a satyr, because that fits in with the mythology of satyrs of being these weird little creepy goat dudes.
Yeah.
But as far as a guy who has towels shoved in his pants, he just kind of walks around touching people's hair without permission. And it's weird.
It's very weird.
It's very weird. Yes. So Mike tells Margaret and Debbie to stay in the room, lock the door. He's gonna go find Torgo and get this sorted out. Debbie's now asleep, and Margaret. Debbie's asleep. Margaret's changing, and we see Torgo. Oh, I was combining two names. That would be their couple name, Margot.
Or Torget.
But yeah, Margaret's taking her dress off, so all she's got on is her slip, and Torgo is being the ever creep that he is looking in the window with his face pressed against it,
I have
arms up
I
on
have
the
placed the
window.
picture in general text channel for you to make sure that you see that.
We'll use that for the cover art.
Oh man, that means Marshall's gonna be the master.
Yeah. But yeah, Torgo's peeping, and I guess she thinks she sees him in the mirror or feels him, but she turns and he's gone. And then we cut back to Mike running through the dark. Torgo jumps up behind him and hits him with the staff, knocking him out. He drags him over to this pole. I guess it's a telephone pole because it's not it's just a pole. Definitely not a light pole because there's no light.
um, it can't be a telephone pole because they have no phones there.
Correct. So it must
So
it's it's just a pole.
I have to imagine it's an electrical pole because they have lights on in the home. So
Oh
it's just
yeah.
running the electricity out
Not
to
a
here.
just not a light pole or a telephone pole. It's perfect.
Yeah.
So he drags Mike over to the electrical pole, belts him up to it, and heads back. I'm assuming to the manor or the altar, but Torgo just leaves him there tied up. Back at the altar, the master wakes up. He's sitting with his dog, and he's sitting there, and it fades into the picture. So you know this is the master, this is his dog. They're one and the same. We cut back quickly to the kissing couple who everybody calls kids, but this guy's clearly like 26, 25. I would never call him a teenager.
Is that what they're supposed to be? Like a teenage? That's what I thought was like. They're a bunch of teenagers. He stole a pint of whiskey from his dad's liquor cabinet, and he's with his best gal making out.
I mean,
Right, right. That's
Bernie
Bert. That's
Rosenblum and Joyce Malure are both listed in the credits as teenage boy and teenage girl. They're clearly both adults. Not
yes.
saying we don't
Yeah,
do
they're
that
supposed to be
nowadays.
teenage girls. I mean, they I mean, this was the predecessor to the WB getting 25 to 30-year-olds playing teenagers. So,
You work with what you got.
yeah, exactly. And plus, he's the stunt coordinator. So, a lot of times when like Mike's falling down, so that wasn't Mike that got hit. That was Bernie that got hit in the back of the head by Tordo and his staff doing the stunt. But we're back to the kids. The cop shows up again. Is like, hey, didn't we tell you to get out of here? Scram! And they shoo him away. He's like, well, why don't you harass? They try shooting him away, and he's like, why don't you harass the other cars? Like, there's no other cars up here. Get out of here. So they take off again, and we cut back to the master who's now praying to Manos, and is waking up his wives. We see that he's got a total of 6 wives. The wives wake up and sit in this little circle and start having their little sharing circle type thing. They don't want a new wife, but they don't want to kill the kid. There's a lot of differing opinions between the wives. Some of them want to kill Debbie. Some of them don't want to kill Debbie. Half of them are okay with the new wife. The first wife is like, well, he doesn't have time for the old wives anymore. He only likes the new ones, and they're bickering about it. And Master kind of tells them to knock it off, and he's like, I got to go deal with Torgo. So he takes off. The wives continue to talk about what they're going to do with the kid and the wife, Debbie and Margaret, and then they start fighting.
In retrospect, to some extent, this fight scene, I guess, makes more sense why Torgo uses such a slow hand to grab people's hair. This is not a fight scene by any modern idea of it. This is 4 to 6 people slightly massage wrestling, is the best way to put it. It is not, what is it? I would not think a single person was hurt during the filming of this fight.
Well, Bernie said somebody was hurt.
I wonder if that's where Joyce broke her ankle, and that's what put her in the, where they had
That's
to put her in that.
possible. But yeah, Bernie, watching the documentary, Bernie was talking about how he had to choreograph this and teaching the ladies moves, and he's like, the ones that didn't follow my instructions got hurt, and the other ones were perfectly fine. He's like, wow, it looks like they're really hitting each other. I'm like, does it?
Wait, he said those words in that order and meant it?
Yes. Bernie was very proud of this movie. Well, he was proud of his work on this movie.
He was proud of that scene.
we've got more Bernie facts coming up.
Yay.
So yeah, the wives are sleeping. Or the master finds the Torgo sleeping. Hang on.
The wives are fighting.
Yes, the wives are fighting. The master the master finds Torgo sleeping. He wakes him up and says he knows about the visitors. He knows about the visits. The master says the wives may be asleep when you come, but they can hear and see everything. They know what you do and they know what you say. And for your insolence, you must die. And Torgo's like, no, this is gonna be my wife. This is not fair. And says, you've doomed yourself, Torgo. You're gonna die. One of the wives had taken off from the fight, and she finds Mike tied to this pole, and in an attempt to awaken him or see if he's okay, she starts kissing him, and then she starts slapping him, and he doesn't wake, so she leaves. I don't know if it. I think it was the first wife. The first wife's kind of over everything at this point. It seems like. Um, but it's a weird, awkward scene. It's such an aggressive.
You know what? I do feel bad. I'm going to retract a little bit how creepy we tried to explain Torgo was. All of this movie is kind of this giant red flag of nobody was giving consent to anything. Mike shows up and demands his way into the home. Torgo touches everyone's hair. And the first wife, just whenever she finds somebody asleep, starts making out with them. It's really weird.
Yes. Oh, and the wives are in these sheer gowns. It really can only be described as somebody took a big strip of tulle, cut a hole in it where you put your head, draped it over them, and then tied a little sash around them. So you can kind of they're see through. And based on the documentary I saw, Bernie talking about everything, it was supposed to be smaller bikini type things underneath, but they're just wearing these. They're just wearing standard undergarments. So he was upset that they weren't wearing smaller undergarments. It's yes, it's a red flag movie. So the wives are still fighting. The master comes back with Torgo and tells everybody to stop. And as soon as the wives start fighting, we get Margaret waking up because she fell asleep on the bed with Debbie. She wakes up and we see the master looking in the window, and then instantly back to the master completely stopping the fight and like, everybody stop it. The master summons his wives to him, and they're preparing to sacrifice Torgo, and then they will sacrifice the first wife after that, who is now tied to one of the columns for her insolence. Torgo is now laying on the altar. The master is saying, kill, kill. Torgo has brought about his own doom and own death, and two of the wives come over and quote unquote kill Torgo with their slow, gropey massage fighting. Now, I've got a fun fact here.
Please.
So while we see it from Torgo's point of view, laying on the Bernie was the one filming this scene, and as he described it, he's laying there as they start kind of massage fighting his face. They just grab his junk and start wailing on him. So he's trying to squirm away, and they're still killing Torgo. So the shot is him lying on his back with the camera up, and apparently they're just wailing away on his junk, which might say something about how they feel about Bernie.
It,
Uh,
there is no part of what they're doing that that looks like they're causing Torgo any kind of pain whatsoever, let alone inflicting death upon him eventually.
Correct.
I watched it with Rachel, and we both just kind of looked at each other and looked back and kind of went, "What's happening?"
Slow massage killing.
I mean, I guess it's like those tortures where you do the same thing over and over again, and like a week later, someone dies from it. But
But in 2 seconds. No, that's giving it too much credit. That scene went
they,
on for like 25 seconds.
I was gonna say they drug that out pretty good.
Aw, Jeff's got a kitty.
Jeph does have a kitty.
T-Bone is here to enjoy the Manos experience.
Yes. We see Margaret crying briefly. We cut back to Mike, who wakes up, grabs his gun, and starts taking off to be a hero. I don't know. But Torgo is now dead. He gets pushed off the altar. Mike goes to the house and he's looking for his family, and he kicks down the door to the bedroom, or at least kicks down the door out of this main room and walks through. And we see dead Torgo on the ground. The master kind of resurrects him or reanimates him, I guess. Grabs his hand, reaches it towards the fire. There's an explosion. His hand rips off. Torgo, Torgo body, whatever's left of Torgo runs off into the dark, never to be seen again. And the master holds this flaming hand and starts laughing.
It is a crazy scene that clearly used a fair amount of their wealth because it's actually not horribly done. Like when I think of a 1966 film of people losing their hand or something, it plays off well enough. His hand is gone. There's an explosion. He's holding the burning wax thing. It kind of works in a sea of things that don't. But this is
Yeah,
sadly the end of our Torgo.
it's one of the better effects in the movie. So after after the master's got the flaming hand, he kind of tosses at the on the ground next to the first wife, who's all tied up for ready for sacrifice. And we cut back to the family, and Mike's like, "Okay, what we'll do is we'll go hide in the desert and wait till morning, then we can get out of here because we just gotta hide and stay low." We cut back to the master talking to the first wife again, and then he starts slapping her. That's not
It's not funny, but
that sentence was not funny, but if you watched it, you look at these slap, it's just that it's funny. And then as after a few slaps, you see more red on her face, like she's bleeding from it.
and then part of the slaps, instead of like trying to do the weird angle where it looks like he's slapping her, it's just like a big close up of his face, making over the top angry face and just slapping at the camera,
Yeah,
which is
yeah,
fantastic. I mean, flawless.
exactly. Mike, Margaret, and Debbie are running into the woods. Margaret stumbles and she's like, "I can't do this. I can't go on anymore. You take Debbie and run without me." And Mike's just like, "No, we're not leaving you. Get up. We can make it." And so she gets up and they all run.
Because no one's immediately behind them at this point.
No, no one's chasing them.
No.
And we get to one of Bernie's proudest stunts as
Uh-huh.
Michael. They're running through the dark, and Mike stumbles, trips through a bush, and kind of rolls down a hill. But from where the angle was, you just kind of see him go through the bush and into the darkness. You didn't see the roll down the hill or anything, so Bernie was upset by that.
So he runs and he biffs it hard. And the
Yes.
first thing I said, as I like tapped Rachel on the arm, and I said, that is commitment right there. Phenomenal. So that is the only thing I complimented while watching the movie.
And that
So
was Bernie the stunt guy.
way to
And
go,
this-
Bernie the stunt guy. If you're watching this or listening to this, I give you a thumbs up for that.
He passed away in 2015.
Don't
He
take that away
did.
from me.
And this also ties in with our previous fun fact about the cameras, since they couldn't afford the cameras, and the ones that they did had attracted so many insects that the cameras were basically useless further than about 3 to 4 feet away from the light source. So this is why Bernie never got to see his sweet tumble. It's also why the cops that show up after Mike shoots his gun don't really get out of the car, or they barely get out of the car because the amount of insects in the area of Texas at that time made using the lights at night useless.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yes, it was not a fun shooting experience, apparently. At least it doesn't sound fun.
I applaud their commitment to get this film made.
But we cut back after Mike stumbles into the bushes. The first wife's now on the altar, ready for her sacrifice, and the master's like, "The family's left the house. Find them!" And he sends everybody to search for them. Margaret is still complaining. Oh, Margaret is still saying, "Take Debbie and run. I can't continue." And we get this kind of searching montage of everybody running through the desert in minimal light, looking for the family. They're all tired. They're worn out. Mike's like, "You know what? Let's go back to the house. They're looking for us. They won't think to look at the house."
Brilliant.
And yeah, Margaret's like, "That makes sense. Yeah." And then they see a snake. He shoots the snake, and they start headed back to the house. This is where the cops kind of stop. They get out of the car, like, "Did you hear that shot?" "Yeah, I did hear that shot. There's no one out here, though." "Yeah, you're right. I mean,
That
the way
that
the way things echo, that could have come from Mexico."
Easily one of the best lines of the movie. Well, that shot could have come clear all the way from Mexico.
Yeah, and their looking is they get out of the car, they walk to the hood of the car, stand like 6 inches away from the hood of the car, look into the darkness, and then go back into the car.
Say the shot was probably from Mexico and leave.
Yes. The family finally gets back to the house after running and not being able to make it too far to trade. Margaret's like, "Take Debbie and run. I can't make it." Well, they make it back to the house just fine, and the master's there already. He comes out the front door. No, I'm sorry. He does not come out of the front door. He comes out of the bedroom door. Yeah, because they get into the house. They're in the main room with the fireplace and the porch of the master. The master comes out of the bedroom and stares at Michael. Michael stares at him. Michael lifts the gun and shoots at the master, and the master just stares into the camera. And then we cut to a pair of women driving a convertible. It is raining. They decide to put the hood up. They said they're excited for their vacation, and there's going to be a few other women joining them on this little retreat they're going on. We get the
Jeph
yes.
looks like he's struggling right now.
Not yet. I'm struggling because I'm laughing at what Marshall is going to have to say here in just a little bit.
I don't want to say it.
Well, let's get to it.
So they put the hood up on the car. They're driving. We get the kissing couple again on a bad cut in the film, but they're kissing and drinking and having fun again. The ladies drive around a little bit. Looks like they're lost. They pull up to the house, and we see Michael standing where Torgos stood before, and he says, "Hello, I am Michael. I take care of the place while the master is away." And we see Margaret and Debbie both as wives on these pillars at the altar. And then there's credits.
And what were you gonna have to say that you didn't want to say?
I don't know.
I was just laughing because I figured it'd be something we might joke about a little bit later here. Of just this couple is still making out, but we have no idea how much time has passed at all in this movie. These
Yeah.
people were making out when the first family got there, and they went inside for that evening. So either this new pair of women that are showing up at the end of the film came literally the next day, and these guys are still sitting outside making out,
Right.
and it just becomes weird, right? Like, because they get told by the cops to go home, and they do, but they're back there in the morning making out again
Yeah. Is
in
this just
time
something
for.
they do? Is it their routine? Is the cops like, "Okay, it's 10 o'clock. Let's go kick those teenagers out of the car"?
Yeah,
What if they're part of
I mean,
the?
all of this makes a lot more sense if you apply like cabin in the woods rules to it. If the kids are the harbinger that has to be there to give them the chance to turn around because they're like, oh, there's nothing up that way, then them choosing to go forward becomes part of it. But really, it's just weird kids making out. And
Yeah, it was, and they apparently they weren't even a part of the original script, because he was the stunt coordinator. They wrote the part because the actress hurt herself and couldn't be one of the wives. They stuck her in the car with Bernie, and it's like, "You're gonna do this now." So it was an add-in too.
Okay, So, but without them in the car, then you don't even have grounds for that for a theory on how everything comes together.
Well, the final product has them there, so now we got the theory.
Right. But like what Jeff was saying, cabin in the woods type of theory where like that making out couple is the point of no return. You
Right.
either listen to them and leave and you're fine, or you don't listen to them and you become Torgo.
Or a wife, or just end up sacrificed to Manos, the hand of fate. The
Yeah.
hands of fate.
Hands. There's two hands there,
Yes, yes, there are.
and we rolled credits.
Yes, we roll credits and we get a little. The credits are kind of fun because they show pictures of all the actors with their names underneath them. We show, I don't know if they're bloopers or just extra footage, but it's not it adds something to the credits. Like here's
Sure.
people that were in it.
I do have a question.
Yes.
How did Michael go from shooting the master to becoming Torgo?
Well, the Master has a unique ability shown through the film of becoming very blurry and so therefore immune to bullets. The wives earlier do mention that Torgo is resisting the Master's ability, which tells us that the Master has the power to take over people.
Yes, which is why Michael at the end spoke similar to how Torgo spoke,
Uh,
which
so
I'm
he
guessing Hal's the one that voiced the Torgo then in that
Hmm.
movie, because that would make sense.
Yeah, I would assume that as well. But yeah, that is the masterpiece known as
Yes,
Manos
that
and the
is
Hands of
that
Fate.
is Manos, the Hands of Fate.
up next is going to be Manos, the Rise of Torgo. No,
That these are here,
there is a
just what I was
trilogy.
gonna just what I was gonna mention. So there was originally gonna be a follow up film, Manos: The Search for Valley Lodge, and it had Tom Naiman back and it had Jackie Naiman back, but both of them left the project due to
Seeing the first one.
no creative differences. And Tom Naiman and Jackie Naiman are the master and Debbie the kid, but they both left the project, and that one ultimately failed. So the search for Valley Lodge never was made. But after that, there was a prequel made, The Rise of Torgo, which Tom Naiman and Jackie Naiman both reprised their roles in, or were both in, and had something to do with it. I haven't seen it, so I don't know if Jackie actually, since it's a prequel, I don't think Jackie would have played Debbie again. Anyway, but there was a sequel to it, Manos Returns, where Tom Naiman played the Master. Jackie returned as Debbie. So yes, there is three Manos movies: The Rise of Torgo, The Hands of Fate, and Returns. And I have not seen the other. I have not seen the other ones. I've only seen Manos, The Hands of
Well,
Fate.
they are on Prime Video.
They are, and I have contemplated watching them. I just haven't yet because I don't think it would have the magic that this one has.
Have you seen them, Jeff?
The sequels?
Yes.
I have not. Those are ones that I can't find, or at least last time I checked, it was hard to find them.
Yeah,
Um,
we when we watched the documentary 2 years ago, last year
mhm.
or something, they weren't available anywhere. I believe they have now since been available on Amazon Prime, at least for a price. Um,
Okay. Oh yeah.
Possibly on YouTube, but
Well, that sounds like a fun thing to do on one of these random days. Have some people over and watch some Manos.
yeah. Trying to think if I had any more fun facts. At the premiere, we mentioned earlier that the limo situation, how it looped the block a few times so everybody could get out, and it looked like there was more limos bringing people in. Once the film started, Bernie remembers lamenting the fact that the audio sounded weird because no one had seen it before. People's voices weren't matching up, and then shortly after like the first 15, 20 minutes or so, people were laughing at the film, and viewing it as a comedy instead of this horror movie that they made. And Bernie remembers going out for a smoke at some point and just continuing walking. He remembered that a few of his other actors slipped out as well. They did not want to be present after the movie was done being screened.
I can't say that I blame them for that.
And I think at this point, Jackie Neiman, the girl that played Debbie, is the last surviving member of the cast and crew from this. Her father, Tom Neiman, who played the Master, passed away shortly after filming Manos Returns.
Yeah, I think he died in 2022.
Yeah, it was after Manos Returns was finished, he passed away. So that was his last credited role. So Jackie Neiman, the girl that played Debbie, is the last surviving cast,
Mhm.
crew, any member of this production. Oh, and one of the things was when Jackie was young, and they were filming the movie, she remembered seeing bits and pieces of while they were shooting it, and she's like, "This doesn't look like actual movies." And Hal just kept saying, we'll fix it at the end. It'll look great." And she's like, "Wow, movie magic is awesome." Because
Too bad they didn't have any of that.
this movie is magic.
Yeah, it's something.
It's something.
My wife's exact words were, "I'm not watching it with you again," because I usually watch a movie twice to take notes. When it's a movie I haven't seen, I'll watch it once just to enjoy it for the first time, and then I'll watch it a second time and take notes on it. And this is the first movie I did not do that with,
I mean, that's fair.
because
No, absolutely fair. It is an extremely bad movie in every sense of the word. But that being said, I think it's also a lot of fun because of partially how bad it is, but also how much it feels like one guy's project. And it kind of is, right? Hal is the writer, director, producer, he's the main character, he put all this together. But it feels very personal, right? Like you're seeing, I mean, with him involved with every facet of this movie, you get a picture of kind of this guy's headscape, right? This is his baby. He did all of the parts to it. Everyone's saying his words to him as the director actor. So even though it's bad in a lot of ways, and it's very bad, it fits in that bad good category because it also feels like somebody kind of tried. Oh,
Yeah, I mean, the Hal definitely tried. He was putting his all into this for every step of the way, and you can't take that away from him. But the result is still not good.
no,
Uh,
no, it didn't pan out the way he had envisioned it, I'm
no,
sure.
no. Also, back in 2015, they made a 8-bit style game, Manos, The Hands of Fate, based on the movie. I've been playing that a little bit. I think I'm on the third level now, but it's platform side scroller Mario style, and it's I think the first level was the desert, the second level was the manor, third level was like catacombs from possibly where the master might be sleeping. So we'll see how it goes once I get past the third level.
Is it better than the movie?
Yes. It's clearer than the movie.
yeah, this is what this is definitely one of those places where, hey, you might want to bring somebody in on your project because though Hal did a great job, maybe having another person read it first might have helped quite a bit.
Yeah, a few collaborators to kind of bounce ideas off of. But I don't know if we need to specifically say final thoughts. I think we've got them all out of there. But does anybody have anything else they want to say about Manos, The Hands of Fate?
Thank you both so much for introducing me to this.
You are so welcome.
I feel like if you after you've seen this movie, it gives you a new bar for when somebody says, "Wow, that movie was terrible," and you can ask them, "As bad as Manos in the Hands of Fate?" And then when they say, "Well, I don't know, I haven't seen it," make them watch it, and then they'll hate you a little bit. But now they'll realize that last time they were lying because it's not as bad as Manos in the Hands of Fate.
Fair.
That is very true. And for anybody who has not watched it and listened to the podcast because you support us and you decide to go watch it, that's on you.
We have nothing to do with that.
We have
We've
nothing to do with it.
You've been warned.
For I don't know if our parents would watch this before the pot listening to it, but if you did, I'm sorry.
I mean, knowing your parents and all that, I mean, this movie must have come out when they were 7, maybe a bit younger. I mean, the movie came out in 1966, so
About
So
10-ish, I'd say.
dad was 12, mom was 10.
yes. Okay, so yeah, so this isn't something they would have been able to watch or even
Right,
know about, right? So this is an
right.
ancient artifact that totally missed them.
I
Uh,
mean,
s-
was this movie played anywhere other than the El Paso movie screening, or did it die there? Not die, but just kind of
Yeah.
disappear at that point.
See here. Other final fun Manos facts. I did find out there's a band in Texas, in El Paso called Manos, the Band of Fate, and they sing Manos, the Hands of Fate related songs. I believe they have 5 albums, I believe it said. But so far I can only find a couple of their songs on Spotify. And honestly, they kind of just sound like a band that listened to too much Scott Pilgrim. It's not a bad, they're not bad. They're just kind of generic, but it's still kind of fun.
And then do they dress up like
Yes, one
like
is the sheriff, one is Mike, one is the master, one is Torgo.
That is
awesome?
fantastic. That makes it
'Cause-
so much better.
Right, 'cause that made me think of the there's a metal band. I think they're from Norway, and they're called Oakley Dokley, and
Mhm.
they all dress like Ned Flanders.
Yes.
So that I was wondering if they did the same gimmick type of thing.
Yeah, why would they not dress up as the characters? That is fantastic.
Yeah, no, that's necessity there.
I don't think I have anything else about Manos. It
Well,
it it it
oh,
was mentioned as the one of the worst movie ever by Ted Mosby in the show How I Met Your Mother. Like we said, it was on one of the Mystery Science Theater 3000s. That's how we found it the first time. There's a thing called Riff Tracks that did a their own commentary of this, and yeah, I've got nothing else.
well, thanks for having me on your guys' show and for being forced to watch an absolutely horrific movie. I hope your next guest is a lot nicer to you all.
This was Marshall's choice. Marshall's like, we should have Jeff and we should do Manos, the Hands of Fate. And I'm like, sounds great. And he goes, you haven't seen the movie, have you?
No, this was this was Jeff's choice, and I played it off as my own. He said, "If you have me on, I want to do Manos," and I said, "Let me talk to Tristan."
Oh,
And so I said, "Hey, we should do Manos and have Jeff on."
oh. All right then.
I thought I told you that Jeff wanted to do Manos with us, but I may have just played it off as my own idea.
No, you definitely played it off like your own idea. All right, well, that's going to wrap up today's episode, Manos, the Hands of Fate, if you missed it earlier. As always, our intro and outro music is provided by Nihilor. I'm actually not going to name those tracks because we're doing something different, and I haven't decided on them yet, but they will be by Nihilor. Yeah, join us again next time as we have another special feature. I don't know when that's going to be, or what that's going to be.
Jeff, where can people find you at if they like
Yeah.
him and want more of him?
If you want less to do with Manos and more to do with dice, you can find me over at the Big Campaign Stories podcast on Twitter, YouTube, all of the standard places pods can be found. Yeah, just look us up.
I'm there as well.
And then you know where to find our regularly scheduled programming. Thank you for joining us. And as always, thank you for watching.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Watch It Bro podcast. I'm Jeff, your guest, and my two hosts today are Marshall and Tristan.
Hi.
Hey, everybody.
Apparently
But
that's how
before
we're
we-
going to do it today.
But before we get to the movie, let's start with a lightsaber check.
Yeah.
Let me get my dice. And I got 2 1s, but they're on the same side of the die, so that makes 11.
Oh, I was going to say a double one is very appropriate for having watched Manos.
And
That broke us. All right, are we ready to get started?
I got a 6.
Do you actually have?
No,
Don't
I
have
was
critical
unprepared, so I had to log into roll 20.
I was gonna say, do you really just pull up roll 20 for this?
I did.
In the future, you can actually just type that right into Google.
Really?
Just roll a d20 and it will just do it.
The things that Google can do. That Marshall's gonna try it.
Roll a d20. 17.
Nice.
Man,
But yeah,
Jeff teaching me stuff all the time.